Fala galera, hoje estou com um convidado muito especial, que eu vou falar dele em breve. Mais um podcast apoiado por Cellar Vinhos, hoje com vinhos da França, porque o nosso convidado é French. Cellar Vinhos, vocês já sabem, Entusiasta 15 para 15% de desconto e o melhor portfólio de França que eu conheço. So, Pierre, it's a pleasure so that you accepted my invitation to participate in the podcast. Super quick, in the same day. If you guys don't know Pierre is CEO of FP Journe Americas. Correct. Partner. So Pierre, thanks for coming. I will make the honors of serving this Beaujolais for you.
Thank you very much. And I'm sorry, I don't speak Portuguese. It's a lack of education on my part. Santé. Voilà.
Merci beaucoup.
Merci beaucoup.
Fresh.
Yeah.
So, Pierre, I would like you to tell us a little bit of your career as in the watch industry. But before, how did you get into watches? Like, when?
Back in 1987, I decided to open a jewelry store in Palm Beach, Florida. And because I didn't know anything, I had to go to the Basel Fair to do my purchases and to be educated. So I went there and they told me it's 8 days, 10 to 6. So I go 8 days, 10 to 6. I need to learn. So the first morning I spent already all my money. Between jewelry and watches, it went so fast. But I decided to still learn about everything. So I knocked on the door of Rolex to look at the collection. They said, no, contact us next year. I did the same thing with Patek Philippe. They said, no, next year. So I went further away from the entrance, all the way to the end of the fair, like virtually almost at the exit. Like it couldn't be further away. And I got mesmerized by a watch in a little display. There was one watch, and I started looking at it because I didn't understand the watch. And there's a gentleman, not very tall, but this tall, that said, "You have a question?" I said, "No, don't worry." I said, "Obviously, you have a question because you've been looking at this watch, with a lot of intent." And I said, "Okay, but I'm sorry, but why did you copy Corum?" The guy insulted me. He said, "Motherfucker, what a piece of shit, what is this?" I said, what happened? He said, "I made the watch for Corum." And I said, "No, Corum told me that they're making the watches." This person became my mentor. His name is Vincent Calabrese. He's the one that created the Golden Bridge, which is probably the biggest DNA, maybe with Gérard Perregaux, with the 3 Golden Bridge, but even more, the DNA of a Golden Bridge, you can't match it. I mean, you see it from a mile away, so you know it's a Golden Bridge. It took Corum 30 years to recognize Vincent as the creator of the Golden Bridge. And then this person started showing me the other side of the industry. I really believed at that time, I was very naive, that everybody was making their own movement. That's what they're telling me. So I said, okay, well, I believe them. Why would I not believe them? And then Vincent invited me to their annual dinner. They have one dinner a year at the Academy. And I sat down at this dinner, and I have Vincent Calabrese, I have Sven Anderson, I have François Paul Journe, I have Philippe Dufour. Frank Miller wasn't there at this dinner, but we had George, who was like his chef d'atelier. So I'm meeting these guys that are absolutely crazy, but really good crazy. They wanted to change the world. So I realized, and then from then on, every day I was with them. I had lunch with them. First I was learning so many things from them. And I said, this is what I want to do in my life. I want to share that passion. Now, the problem is at that time they were very, very small, and you couldn't make a lot of money out of them. Frank Miller very rapidly emerged this group and started this company with his partner, and then made inroads. But after that, basically, till François Paul, you haven't seen a production piece. Philippe Dufour was making watches, but how many a year? Very few. So they really showed me what I want to do in my life. I was 24. I said, that's great. And then there are so many things you can talk about. And as a salesperson, that's what you want. You want the memories. You want the culture of it. Otherwise, a watch is a watch is a watch. You don't need a watch. You didn't pay extra to get time on this. It's not an option.
We are talking that you know the collector by the how he looks to his watch.
Absolutely.
Because if he uses like this,
that's a real collector.
You don't need to know the time. I just am looking at my watch.
Absolutely.
And at this time you were living
in Palm Beach, Florida.
In Palm Beach.
Right.
All these guys, they were living there also?
No, it was at the Basel Fair.
Only during the Basel. Okay.
That was at that time the annual fair that everybody convened. Even before the SIHH, which became Watches and Wonder, now there's not even a Basel Fair, so it's finished.
Yes. And when did you start your career as a in the watch industry?
So I was a retailer, and I was also a gemologist, so I knew this, but diamonds left me a little bit dry. I mean, it's a piece of carbon, it's beautiful, but watches, you're talking about time. Time is already a great philosophy things, you know. There's so many things you can know about time. Without time, there's nothing. So I really got fascinated. I started writing articles about time, something called Time Zone, nothing to do with the timezone.com. Timezone.com came after. I was also the representative for the Academy, because all these parts were part of the AHCI, Académie Horlogère Créateur Indépendant, the horological independent creators academy, with fantastic talent, no money, but a lot of talent and a lot of passion and desire.
And which brands you worked with before?
So at one time, I decided, because I had like a business school background, I said, I'm not going to be behind the counter all the time. I wanted to learn this, but I moved away. And I was the first distributor worldwide of a company that everybody knows about now, Bell & Ross.
Bell & Ross.
So I started with Bell & Ross, which are to this day very, very close friends. I learned quite a lot with them. They were really good partners. And that's how I started. And then in 1999...
which year was this, sorry?
Bell & Ross maybe was 91, 92, maybe,
okay.
At the very beginning.
Yeah.
They, at that time, they didn't even have an office. They were like zero. They were like super, super small. But I really believed in them. They were very, very coherent, which is what you need in a watch company. And they had, also this passion in another way, not like the Jour du Faux. It's a different part of the watchmaking industry, but with a good message, a clear, coherent message.
Yes. And after Bell & Ross, you worked at De Bethune also?
No, De Bethune came in 2005 when I launched De Bethune in America. That was after that. But in between comes 1999. 1999, François Paul calls me and he said, okay, can you open? Are you ready? I said, only have to sell it. You have to make it. I've been waiting for like 12 years for you to make a watch. So don't ask me. I don't know how to do it. And he said, yes, fine. Okay, so can you open 5 point of sales in the United States? I said, sure, but why 5? Why? Because I have 5 watches. So I said, you have 5 SKUs? Silence. 5 references? 5 models? I said, Pierre, you don't speak French anymore? I have 5 watches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Platinum, yellow dial, tourbillon, brass movement, 38 millimeter, retail price $59,000. So I delivered 1 per store. 1 was mine. So they sold the watch. We all sold the watch very quickly. I said, what do we do now? Now we wait. Wait for the next one. So when we say François Paul started small, François Paul started very small.
The first one was the tourbillon
brass movement
in Tokyo. In Tokyo?
No, Tokyo came after 2003.
Okay. Sorry. So it's the first one was the tourbillon sovereign.
Tourbillon sovereign.
In 5 different materials.
No. 1.
Platinum.
I don't have a choice. There was 1 reference.
1 reference. Okay.
Right.
5 watches, the same watch.
Right. And only 1 of each.
1 of each.
That's what I had to start with.
In 1999.
1999.
And then?
And then in 2000, I was nominated to be the vice president of Technomarine. So the other spectrum of the watch industry. Technomarine was a very, very popular, very hot watch like from 98 till about 2005, 2006. I mean, you couldn't keep things in stock. Much, much less expensive. Quartz, 98% quartz, made in China, sort of Swiss made. But it was also a very interesting step for me because I had done the retail, had done the distribution, But for me to get the other part, to understand the whole industry, I have to do worldwide. But to be in the United States and take care of a brand worldwide is virtually impossible. Because you have to be in Geneva, maybe Paris, but you have to be in Europe at least, not in the United States. But I was able to do this. So I told the owner of Technomarine that let me sell all my companies, except one, Journe. Journe, I will never let go. That was out of the question. There's definitely no competition between Technomarine, which was $2,000, and us, was already substantially more, but and very different product. One is mostly like ladies, the other one is obviously gents. So I kept Journe always.
Let's work it like chronologically. You went to Technomarine, and while working Technomarine, you still work in Journe.
Yeah, again, not a lot of watches, so it wasn't like volume.
Yes, just
still not volume.
Masterpieces.
Yeah.
And what was the next step of when Francois Paul, and now what do you do? What was the
So the next step came in 2009. So we decided to open the boutique in New York. We didn't have a physical presence that we owned in the United States. We had Tokyo, was the first boutique worldwide, 2003. Then we had Geneva. Paris was 2008. We had Hong Kong in the middle, and then we decided to open New York. So he said, okay, Pierre, we have a very good relationship. We've known each other since '87. So just imagine. He said, Pierre, do you make enough money with me now? I said, yeah, I think I can. So what's the plan? Say, can you get exclusive with me? Drop all the other watch companies, because now things are going to get serious with the New York boutique. I said, well, let me talk to my wife a little bit about this, because it's a decision that's important. And I talked to my wife and said, Sarah, we're going to lose about 75% of our revenues. Like from one day to another, we're going to lose 75% of the revenues. And she asked me two questions. Are we going to be okay? I said, yes. And are the kids going to be okay? I said, yes. She said, then do what you love. So I went on this adventure with Francois Paul. We didn't know we would be as successful as we are now. We knew we would be successful, but this is, I think, better than what we could have imagined. But it took some time and some hard work, especially on the part of Francois Paul. He's the one making the watches. It's not easy.
I can imagine.
Yeah. So we became partners, and we did this joint venture. We became partners for the Americas, from Patagonia to Vancouver, including the Caribbean. Say, okay, you're in charge of that zone. Do a good job.
Nice. So in 2009, you opened the New York boutique.
Yeah. And we had the distribution already that I created, that now we merged into the new structure, but that's just paperwork. That didn't change anyone's life.
And how do you see the markets of the micro independent brands like FP?
All right, so let's do some definitions, because right now a lot of people talk about the independence. Well,
yes.
I heard that Rolex is independent, Patek is independent, Chopard is independent, Breitling is independent. I mean, all of them are independent, except a few that are in the main group, like the Swatch, Richemont, LVMH, and Kering. But that's about it. So the majority of the watch brands were historically independent, and they are independent also. Francois Paul has a very good definition of what it means and how to differentiate one with the other. It's not as sexy, it's not very marketing, but this is the truth. He said you have the watchmakers and you have the watchmaking. One is the industry, nothing wrong with this. But you don't know the watchmaker at Omega, for example. There's no name. We have no idea. Even Rolex, you don't know who the watchmaker is behind. But on let's say Philippe Dufour, François Paul Journe, Recep Recepi, all these guys, you know the name. You're buying his vision, yes. Not a marketing thing. So watchmaking versus watchmakers. To simplify in our lives, we call them indies, implying that they are small independents. And if you look at the small independents, you look at Journe, which is in a very bastard situation, because we make about 1,000 mechanical watches a year, and we try to make as many as we can, but that's all we can do.
1,000 watches a year.
Yeah, but which is a lot, and yet not a lot. Yeah. It's not enough to have the economy of scale. You have to go Lange, 4,000 or 5,000 to start having economy of scale. But it's enormous compared to like a Philippe Dufour or even Recep. It's an enormous production. So we always say we are the biggest of the smallest and the smallest of the biggest. We really in between, and it's a very difficult position that Francois Paul put himself to, but He's been able to. It took a lot of work.
I like this definition. You are the biggest of the smallest and the smallest of the biggest.
Yeah.
How many watches Recepi? Around 250, right?
A year? 50.
50?
Yes, I think it's nothing. It will go up, but again, because he's going to do like François Paul. I mean, François Paul is his mentor, or they have the same vision of chronometry. So obviously they have the same vision. Is work first, and then people ask us many times, why do you cap production at 1,000? We never capped anything. Like if you cap, it's like Audemars Piguet saying, "Oh, we're going to make 40,000 watches this year." Why 40,000? Why not 41,507 and a half? Or did you show me the figures? This is a marketing decision. We try to make as many watches as possible. The best example, Hermes with the Kelly or the Birkin bag. It's all in-house. So you have one guy doing that purse. If he can make one more that year, fantastic. If he makes one less, that's what it is. But he can't make 25 more.
And you can't compromise the quality of the...
Because the way François Paul thinks, and I'm not saying it's better, but for his mind, of course, and in his vision of watchmaking, it is better. It's one watch, one watchmaker. Unlike other companies where you're going to do a part, I'm going to do a part, this person going to do a part, and these guys assemble. Here you can really grow the production. But François Paul, out of respect of watchmakers, you're going to do everything from A to Z. Now listen to this example. In terms of business, if you really think business and how much money you're going to make at the end of the quarter, if this watch comes back for repair within 3 years of warranty, it does not go to after-sales service. It goes to the guy that made it. You messed up. Learn from your mistakes so you don't do it again. So instead of creating more revenue for the company, it's like you actually don't make a lot of revenue, less revenue, because you have to fix it. But that's the only way that you can get better. It's only with mistakes that you learn. Yes. Otherwise, you never learn. And even François Paul said many times, don't think that the movement that I made 30 years ago are the same than today. I learned my mistakes in 30 years. I'm doing already, and I'm still making mistakes, and hopefully I'm going to make better. François Paul is very clear about his things. That I want to make the perfect watch. Is it perfect? Of course not. But that's my goal. That's why he gets up every morning and he works. François Paul works on the bench most of the time. Of course, he has to travel, he has to present the company, but besides this, it's mostly on the bench.
So he is together with the watchmakers?
He's together with watchmakers. He's upstairs on the second floor. He has his own bench, which is big.
In Geneva.
In Geneva, and a little desk with his computer, which is much smaller. But you really have to look at it in a different way. And when going back to the passion that I mentioned at the beginning, why do you think watch companies make watches? It's like 3 questions, but the answer is so obvious.
Money.
To make money. I mean, that's why, Richemont does it, and nothing wrong with this. But not François Paul. François Paul is going to tell you, Bernardo, I need your money. I really need your money, more than the other guys, but I'm going to show you what I'm going to do with it. To this day, François Paul rents in Geneva. He doesn't own an apartment in Geneva. He doesn't care.
He cares about watches.
He cares about watches. For him, he says, I want to make the best watch possible. Now, and I need the money for this, to have the dial maker that he owns, the case maker that he owns, all the equipment to make 95% of the components are made in-house. And if we can make it in-house, we don't make it. It's that easy.
Since the beginning, everything is in-house.
I know. At the beginning, he had to subcontract.
Yes.
Because he didn't have the money. He said, make that screw, make that thing, according to his specifications. But the issue that we have, when you're relying on outside contractors, okay, can you make me, Bernardo, 5 screws? What, 5? 500, 5,000, 5? What do you do with 5? No, because I need to try for the prototype. Maybe you do it once or twice because you like François Paul, and you can't do it every time. And when you launch production, you're going to say to whatever at that time, Rolex or Jaeger-LeCoultre or whoever was producing with subcontractors, no, forget about you. We're going to put this guy in front of you. So especially when you make a complicated watch, like we did the Grand Sonnery, like we did the Centigraph, if he doesn't have the possibility to make the parts in-house, it will never come out. Because by the time you do the virtual and the reality, you have all these problems that come. So, we have to change that part. Okay, that night, he's going to make the part downstairs. The next morning, he has the part. No, that doesn't work. Let's do another one and another one. And there was a lot of trial and errors because you have to adapt again from the CD or the plans on the software to reality. It's mechanical, so it's very complicated. Without this, he would not have been able to create all these complications.
So the machines were slowly entering the factory floor, so you could make everything in house.
So, for example, talking about the money, because I can say that, but I have to show an illustration. So, in 2004, François Paul builds all the downstairs to make the machines to make the parts for the screws, the wheels, the gears, and everything. How many more watches do you think we produce in 2005? Now that we have all this inside, how many more?
I would say 0.
We did better. We did 4.
4.
So I told François Paul, I said 4, and you spend 5 million Swiss francs. So it's about $1.25 million per watch. If a businessman goes to a board of directors, they say, I want to spend 5 million, so I make 4 more watches. People say, no, that's not possible. But I remember François Paul said, but why did you do this? And he went like this, he stuck his finger into my ribs. I said, now, if there's a problem, I can blame it on myself, not on the subcontractor. And if they deliver me shit, they can keep their shit. Now I'm going to do my own. Now I need to do it inside, and I won't have an excuse.
Nice. This is...
It's pretty courageous.
And he has control over the whole manufacturing of the watch. And which watch you think put FP Journe in a different, like a step up?
Probably this one. Probably the Chronomètre Bleu. The Chronomètre Bleu, it came out in 2009. Mm-hmm. It's called the Crisis Watch. Remember what happened 2008, 2009?
Yes.
And François Paul wanted to make what we call in marketing an entry line. So appeal to people. So according to my business school, when you do an entry line, you try to appeal to the maximum people possible. So you do usually a watch that is round, because whatever, 80% of the watches are round. Checked. You do with a metal that is easy to reproduce, usually steel. Not expensive, you make quantities, and pretty resistant. Not checked. François Paul decided to make it in tantalum.
Tantalum.
Not titanium. Tantalum. Tantalum, imagine clay, like the kids' clay, but metal. It's at the same time super hard, but also soft. You can't even polish it. You have to use lapidary techniques. It's a whole different process. That was the first one to introduce a full tantalum watch. Audemars Piguet did some links on one Royal Oak, but there was interlink that was in tantalum. Here is the whole watch, including the crown, including this. So already, if for example, if you said that to manufacture a gold case is difficult to the level of 100, let's imagine, as a base. Platinum would be 200. Tantalum would be 600. And platinum is not easy, huh? That's 600. So that's the complexity. And then you would make a dial that is usually white or black, because 80% of the dials are white or black. No, it came out with what we call this blue chrome mirror dial, which to this day, we still have 65% rejected. 65% of our dials, recycle bin. Well, recycle. We have to. Because when you have a watch like this that looks very simple, and it's typical Journe, with Journe, less is more. It's more difficult to take one part or something away than add. You can always add more, but then doesn't bring anything. So here, because it looks super simple, if there's any problem, that's the only thing you see. The best example is if you give your wife or your girlfriend a diamond, and she knows where the inclusion is in the diamond, you have to change diamond or you have to change girlfriend. You don't have an option, because that's the only thing that human eye is going to look at all the time. So François Paul was very adamant to control, not only does he control all the production, but he controls all the way the way the boutiques look like. When you have an application for a special piece, he's the one that decides, yes, you can have it, no, you cannot have it. So he's micromanaging this. It's normal, it's his baby.
Yes.
He has to.
I really think that the elegant is a masterpiece.
Can I go backwards? Listen,
Yes.
Talking about the Conway Blue. So now we have this entry line where two of the three boxes are not checked. So as François Paul said, but why are we doing this if it's so complicated? Answer from François Paul, because I like it. That's his thing.
So it's not an entry.
No, it is what it is now, because he said, and with many times, because we had so many issues to produce it, many times said, but you want to stop it? I said, no, because I love it. And that brings another point. You have to understand that this is the only company with a certain retail and production presence. Again, I'm not talking about Mr. Dufour, there's no volume. It's the only one where the president of the company is the watchmaker, is the founder. So what's important is it's his decision, his vision. He doesn't care what you want or what I want. It's not what we call in business consumer-centric. It's ego-centric. That's his vision. You like it, great. You don't like it, don't worry. He always said from the beginning, I, François Paul, make the watches that I, François Paul, love. And I'm lucky that some collectors love what I do. But even if they would not love what I do, I will still do what I love. And you know why? Humbly, that's the only thing I know how to do. Don't ask me to do things like Max Busser, okay, or Richard Mille. This is not his thing. He doesn't understand. It's not a watch for him in the traditional term.
Yeah, it's a very classical, egocentric, perfect watch.
That's what we and I talked to a lot of professors of marketing, and some of them are joint collectors. They said, you're not even in luxury. Luxury doesn't mean anything anymore. Everybody's uber luxury, meta luxury. If you need add more words, it means that your word has no significance. What you are in sponsoring. Like, again, I'm not comparing one to the other, but when Michelangelo did things for the Medicis, he was paid by the kings or the princes to do something. It's a little bit the same thing, because you cannot change his vision. If you ask him to do this watch, can we have it square? No. Why? Because I don't know. It's not me. I'm not like this. So it's you're really buying his vision. But what is his vision? So the money goes to make the best watch possible, correct? That's what I said. So for him, what is the best watch? It is what we call the scientific watch. Like Abraham Louvreguet, or the people like Lépine, Antil Janvier from like the early 1800s, end of the 1700s, early 1800s, where time and time telling was extremely important.
Yes.
Now we don't care. We have the telephone. At that time, how do you tell time? So people like this had to have a precise instruments. It started in the mid-18th with John Harrison, when he did the marine chronometer. So that was the first one to really attempt to have really a precision. Of course, with Breguet, it changed the whole industry of the horological industry. So there's no doubt. But you have this trend. Today, to be able to tell time in a precise way with the advent of quartz or the telephone, it's just a lost art. You have to appreciate it as an art. Don't appreciate it for the functionality of it. No mechanical watch can be as accurate as a watch. It's not possible. But what François Paul is trying to do, to get as close as possible, little bit by little bit, to the quartz. He said, if I can make a watch as precise as quartz, which he knows is not possible, but if I make it closer and closer and closer, that's my grail. That's why I come to work every day.
The Elegance is a quartz mechanical, right?
Okay, electromechanical.
Electromechanical. Right. And is the Elegance the most sought after or no?
It could be, because first we make quite a few on one movement, so we make quite a lot. I would say the Chronomètre Bleu is still probably more popular. The Elegant came after. It's also less expensive.
2014, right?
And it's quartz. So when people say, what is François Paul, Mr. Watchmaker, Mr. Horological history and everything, what is quartz? And he said, what are you talking about? If Abraham Louvreguet could have invented quartz in 1800, he would have done quartz. Because it's important. Quartz is fantastic invention. It's a very low torque energy and very constant that produces a little bit of energy every second. So the hand was like this.
And the battery lasts 18 years, right?
It depends. So the principle of the quartz, I said, I'm not going to do a quartz watch to do a quartz watch. Otherwise, I buy a swatch movement for, I don't know, $2, whatever, I don't know how much it is, and I pack it up and I do this François Paul will never do this because he doesn't cheat. He respects the collectors too much. So what he did, he said, where can I better a quartz watch? Not on the accuracy. Then you have to go atomic clock, which is a whole different ballgame. So the only thing I can do is save the energy, which is a common denominator with every watch that is produced on a mechanical one. You have to save friction, save energy, so the watch can be precise for a longer period of time. It's the same principle. So he created a movement that when it lays dormant for more than 30 minutes, it goes to sleep. So the hands stop. Then you pick it up, there's a little switch, like a little oscillating mass, like an automatic watch, that hits a switch, and the watch goes back to the time you set it at. But the great thing is, if the watch is stopped at 12, when you went to bed, it stopped at 12, but the watch is 11 hours and 59 minutes. If you would do 11 hours and 59 minutes like this, you would waste a lot of energy. So what it does, it goes backwards. It calculates the closest path possible to the time. That's the beauty.
Wow. It's almost a smartwatch.
It's smart in that sense.
In that sense, yes.
Because if you go into smartwatches like
No.
the iWatch, for me, the opposite of the smartwatch is a dumb watch. But I don't know what a dumb watch is. And for me, the iWatch is not a watch. It's a computer that also tells you the time.
But this kind of mechanism, this intelligence, it's very impressive.
Just imagine it took him hundreds of thousands of Swiss francs for the R&D and 8 years waiting.
8 years of development.
And this is also where François Paul is totally crazy, but you have to be crazy to be that demanding. You have to be super demanding when you're at that level. François Paul does not like yellow gold. He doesn't like it. There's nothing wrong with it. He doesn't like it. The circuit board that we have on the quartz watch, we showed it. So we don't want to hide the fact that it's quartz. We're showing it to you. But François Paul, when they came, all the circuit boards were gold-plated in yellow gold. But that's the way to do it.
Yes.
He said, I don't do yellow gold. The watch is not even gold anyway. I don't care. I don't do yellow gold. I do rose gold. So they had to change all the plating into rose gold. But now rose gold has more copper. Copper has more interference, electrical interferences. The watch went crazy. It would stop, go backwards, up, down. I mean, because you had this interference electricity. So that delayed us probably another year before they can figure this out, because François Paul said, I do not want to compromise. This is the way I want, otherwise it doesn't come out. That's when people don't understand that his vision is not money driven. And it's so important for people, for collectors to understand. We say we love your money to do something. So be part of the family, be part of our history. Like you buy a Rolex tomorrow, I don't think it's going to go to the family to create something for the future. I mean, the great companies, but it's so big that, you know, they don't feel the purchase. It's like a drop of water. For us, everything is important. And we reinvest the money. As a collector, wouldn't you trust more a company that reinvests in itself rather than buy a castle, a yacht, a helicopter? You have to be careful.
Yes. And how FP works the customer experience in store, or the relationship with the customer?
So what we've discovered, but it grew organically. I mean, I wish I could have said we planned this way because we marketing geniuses. We're not. But François Paul from the Tokyo boutique in 2003 already had a little showroom, a bar, and a living room. Like he's welcoming you.
Like
home.
in Geneva.
Like in Geneva.
Yes.
But the concept was 2003.
Yes.
Now you hardly see another store now that we don't have a bar, a coffee, or whatever. François Paul did this in 2003. Now I'm not sure. I don't think François Paul is a retail visionary. I don't even think he cares. But that's why it's more important for him. It is him. This is the way he is. He said, just relax, have a glass of wine or coffee, whatever. We're going to talk about watches. Relax. There's no rush. So sometimes at New York, when we open New York, and New Yorkers being who they are, they say, okay, how much is this watch? And I want the price now. Sorry. Too expensive. What do you mean too expensive? If you don't know what it is, of course it's too expensive. It's normal. You need to know what it is. Come back, when you have time. There's no rush. We're here. So some people never came back. And some people said, good. So here we can relax. We can talk about watches. They can come with a friend and talk about watches. We always had books and the latest magazines and old books to study or to talk about watchmaking. And then we realized that there's a community of passionate watch lovers. These ones happen to be Journe, but it could be other ones. And some people have more than one brand, obviously, where they share their passion.
Yes.
If we two golfers, even if we don't know each other, we can be passionate and talk about Pinehurst or St. Andrews for 2 hours.
We don't know each other, and here we are.
Exactly.
We are talking about watches.
You're absolutely correct.
That's the purpose of.
That's the connection.
Yeah. So you are here in Brazil for a couple of days.
Yeah.
How does the Brazilian market? How you see the Brazilian markets for FP?
Okay. So Brazil is my priority for 2024 and 2025. Why? Because first, it's an enormous country. It's an amazing country. Also, the Brazilians, I say as a cliche, as a whole, they are very welcoming people. And they're very innocent and say, teach us, tell us. We need to learn. So it's not like, oh, I know everything. I don't want to know everything. Like you could have sometimes in certain countries. Here, it's a young market. Obviously, you have a lot of
very young,
and then you have a big spread in wealth between the super wealthy and the not as wealthy, which is Brazil's issue. But hopefully, the middle class is going to emerge and help everyone. But when we see that there's traction in the fact that people love to talk about this and love to share their passion, it's like wine. Wine is always better when you share it.
Yes.
It's the same taste, but the fact that you're sharing, there is this connection, this emotion that you need to create. So that's what we've been trying to do. That's why I came here for the third time in this year alone in Brazil.
Third time already?
To see these people. But now we're having fun. So I met some of the Brazil collectors that I met this year in Tokyo when we did the 20th anniversary. I mean, it's amazing. Or in Miami, when they come to Miami, and then they really understand that, okay, now we can talk about watches. You have also to understand Brazil is a dangerous, so is now a lot of capitals in Europe, even also in the United States. But it's a little bit scary to talk about, look, I have a Journe that costs a lot of money to someone you don't know. Yes. But when you're in a certain category, you can exchange this information, this passion, without risking your life.
Yes. And do you want to talk about the club or?
I can. So this is the strength of this community because we're so passionate, and we have people that are billionaires, but we have people that don't have a lot of money.
But they're passionate about watches.
They're together.
Yes.
They don't mind. I remember when a young kid, he's probably like 20, 21, he waited a year, saved money to buy an Elegant. And he came to pick it up, and we had an event at the Miami boutique. And I was sitting down with some big collectors. I said, why don't you join us? And he said, no, I don't want to bother you. Well, you don't bother us. Come and sit with us. If you're not 21, don't have a drink. But if you're over 20, I can't remember. And then they spent an hour talking about this. And even my old collectors, by age and the fact that I know them for a longer time, they came out and said, this guy is amazing. I mean, we had so much fun. And the guy didn't have the money to buy the tourbillon, whatever. But he knew everything.
He wants the brand. He wants sorry, he doesn't want the brand. He wants Francois' vision.
Absolutely.
Or if he can buy the Elegance, great. I would love to buy the Elegance because I know the vision. You buy the vision. So this is very nice. And soon he will be buying another watch.
Absolutely.
And later another one.
But at least this guy is going to have a great time. I mean, of course, you don't buy a watch to tell time it's over. It's the emotion that it brings. That's why if I don't know you, we will never ship you the watch. Ever. An Elegant or an Astronomique, we will never do it. We want to meet you. We want to know who you are. We are not salespeople. We are advisors. You're not a client. You're a collector. So I always told my staff, never think about the sale. Think about the collector.
This is nice because we were talking about this while we were having lunch, that you don't want to sell.
No.
You want to talk, know the client, the collector.
I do believe that if you are interested in high-end watchmaking. It's a big if. And if you think you understand what high-end watchmaking is, it's another big if. Then you need to know about journal. I'm not saying you need to buy it. Maybe you like triangular watches. Sorry, we don't do it. I'm not even talking about selling. For your knowledge, if you're interested in high-end watchmaking and you understand it, François Paul history is amazing. I mean, nobody can come close to him. And I know because I've known him for like 37 years, I've seen the progression, but it's always with the same vision, always the best watch or the scientific watch, always. Even if when he makes some exceptions, like for example, I don't know if you've seen the hand watch, that was the idea from Mr. Francis Ford Coppola.
I've seen.
He doesn't say FP jaune on the dial. There's no dial, but on the face, there's no name.
Can you explain how that watch works?
Well, it's basically, it's a hand, so it's a three-dimensional way to tell time. One of the issues that we had is how do you tell 12, base 12 with 5?
Yes.
So that's why he played with the thumb to create another base. But all these are things that are moving because you have friction.
It's piece unique?
No, it's not. But because you have friction, it's not very accurate. By definition, because you have friction. So François said, it cannot bear my name. It's not a true jaune. I want to have fun. Don't take this too seriously. This is not the future of things to be. Like the first example were called the vagabondage, which were tonneau-shaped watches, a little bit like the elegant, but with discs moving. You have a jumping turning hour, you have a jumping minute, then you finish with a jumping second. When you move things that are heavy, it's not as accurate. It's a physical problem. There's nothing you can do. So he said, no name on it. So there's always a logic with François Paul in everything he does. If you don't understand it, it's because I didn't explain it well. Because otherwise, there's always a reason.
This is amazing. I always ask the guests to explain which watch you are wearing. So you already explained a little bit. Mm-hmm. And do you want to share a little bit more of this watch? And for not about the watch, but what this watch represents to you?
Well, I love the Chronomètre Bleu, or it's like a sister called the Chronomètre Souverain, where you have a power reserve at 3, which is probably my favorite watch of all. And I have 31 jewels, so I have a lot to choose from. But what I really like about this is, like, for example, when people ask me, so, how many jewels do you have in your watch? Or they ask François Paul. François says, are you a watchmaker? No. So why do you care? I'm telling you, I have the exact amount of jewels. And if I can take one out, it'll be even better. Because people have this misconception, I have like 75 rubies. Why do you need 75 if you can do it in 74 or like 35? Less is more. The more parts you have, the more friction you have, the more wear and tear you have, the more lubricants you're going to need. Yes. So that's why I love François Paul, because he's a minimizer. Always, less is more complicated. Less is more. That's one of his philosophy. If he can do this watch with one less part, he'll do it tomorrow morning.
Yeah, that's what you told us in the beginning. It's difficult to take out, not to put it.
Absolutely.
Before I go to I love the what you have to share with us about FP. I would like to introduce my new sponsor, that is G4. Então, G4 Educação, o novo patrocinador do canal, e eles estão liberando um curso que custa mais de R$1.500, que está aqui na descrição, de AI para negócios, para você integrar a inteligência artificial no seu negócio. Então, o link está aqui embaixo, descubram mais. So, I'm going to ask you some questions now, and you need to answer them quickly. Okay? So, your first watch.
Seiko calculator.
Really?
To go like this with your finger. My father gave it to me when I was 13.
And most worn watch.
My Chronomètre Souverain jaune, red, gold, silver dial.
Coolest watch you've ever had.
Coolest. First, I don't think I'm a cool person, but I would say probably LIP. LIP, it was a French brand, but designed by somebody called Roger Talon. And then in the 70s, And the 70s was a really, really influential and very different style of watches. Even if you look at the Breitling from the 70s, they look absolutely amazing. Very different. After that, after the 70s, it came back to very, very classical watches, all the way to about Richard Mille, when you started having like Max Busser and all these objects, or mechanical objects on the wrist, not necessarily watches, Overk and all these guys. So
nice. And the best opportunity you've ever missed, like that what?
I can tell you, my father gave me early 80s. He was coming back from Switzerland, and he gave me this piece of plastic that smelled like plastic. It was awful. And I couldn't even sleep in the same bedroom because it was like...
like Swatch.
It was crazy.
Like Swatch.
That was one of the prototype Swatch. And I told my dad, I said, Dad, this is never going to sell. This is never going to work. So I'm not always correct. Obviously, this is my... I mean, I didn't miss anything on this, but I did not see Swatch becoming what it is.
It was a Swatch prototype.
One of the very, very... It was the dark blue, one of the first ones. I mean, it was amazing. I remember going to Basel. At that time, my girlfriend was from Basel, going to like very high-end black tie, and the thing was Swatch.
Have you ever been to the International Horology Museum in La Chaux-de-Fonds?
Of course.
They have a bunch of Swatches.
Absolutely.
There. And the favorite, that's cliche, favorite brand and one watch from that brand?
Well, I think Rolex is an amazing brand. I think the ratio, quality, price, the direction of this, the amount of watches they produce and still create this aura. I mean, one of my favorite watches is my old 70s Pepsi Cola Rolex, an amazing watch. Of course, Journe, because I know so much more about Journe, and you'll see when the dust settles and people are going to look back, at the history of watchmaking, if they're still interested in this. It's going to be huge.
Yes.
Like, for example, if you look at tourbillons, only 2 tourbillons, original tourbillons, came out in the second part of the 20th century. George Daniels, François-Paul Journe. Now, you had another person called Daniel Roth that worked for Breguet, and he did a tourbillon, beautiful, but it was based on the Le Mania movement. Nothing wrong with this, but it's not a purely, truly, 100% original one like Breguet did in 1801. He had to construct everything from the beginning, not from a base or anything. So yeah, that brand, Journe, is amazing because it can really put things in perspective. François Paul, when he tells you this is watch is new, it's not new because you have a hand that's red or a dial that is fuchsia. No, it's new in the history of watchmaking. He's looking at a different perspective than we look at. So that helps us understand where we are, understand where we're going. If you're looking at an indie, like a small independent, you have to ask a few questions. Is this a brand or a product? Sometimes they come up with one product. One product doesn't make a brand. Brand has to have a philosophy, core values. What are these core values? What are you going to be doing 10 years from now, 20 years from now, 30 years from now, if you're still alive? And also, what happens when you're not here? So that's one of the questions at the beginning, when we're selling tourbillons, when people didn't really know what a tourbillon is. They still don't know what it is, but it doesn't matter. But it was an expense. Even at 59,000, you don't give 59,000 to FP Journe. Who's FP Journe? And this off-centered, what is it? So a lot of people ask us, okay, but if he dies, what happens? It's a fair question. But this watch, François Paul did not assemble it. He doesn't do every watch that comes to 1,000. No, François Paul makes the next one. He's always doing the next one. He does the prototype, then he does a second prototype with what we call the assembly book. Bernardo, make sure you use that lubricant. Pay attention here, maybe this is delicate, or do this first and then do this second. The whole thing. Then he doesn't look at a watch till he comes back the first time for repair. Is it conceptual error? He needs to change a part. It is human error. He needs to train the watchmaker. No matter what, it's his responsibility. And then he never looks at the watch anymore, unless it's a problem that hasn't been sorted out and we don't know what it is. And of course, he's looking at this. So when François Paul, and this is where he makes a big difference compared to the small independent, he always puts it in mind that I'm going to make $1 million out of this. He's never going to make $1 million, but it's called the industrial process. Everything has to be documented. Bernardo, any mediocre watchmaker can make one watch. Yes, because you play like this, you fiddle, oh, don't touch anything, it's moving, it's perfect. But you need to service it after. How are you going to duplicate it? So the idea of duplication is extremely important because you need it to be able to service your watch 3 years from now, 50 years from now, 500 years from now. It's possible. Like when François Paul started his career restoring clocks from the 1800s with missing parts and everything, when you restore, you don't repair. Repair, you take all the movement, you put the battery or electrical. That's not restoration. Restoration, you have to do it the way that the artist or the watchmaker intended to do it. It's not your vision, it's his vision. Like if you fix a Pablo Picasso, you're not going to do Pierre's interpretation. We don't care about Pierre. We care about Mr. Picasso.
Yes. So, which one is your favorite of the brand?
In jaune, chronomètre souverain.
Chronomètre souverain.
Yeah. For me, the red gold with the silver guilloche die.
A brand you wouldn't take even for free.
So many. So many. I can't name these names. Too many.
And your Grail watch. Which one you think is like the last watch you need?
The Grand Sonnery from Mr. Jaune.
Grand Sonnery.
We stopped making it a few years ago, and they were expensive then. They're very expensive now.
The Grand Sonnery. Pierre, it was a pleasure.
Thank you. Thank you.
Receiving you. I'm kind of speechless of receiving you here, and I hope we can visit Jorn's atelier in Geneva.
But go and see the dial maker and the case maker. Because when you look at the business machines for like small parts, it's okay, well, CNC, like laser, but look at the dial. When you come out of the dial factory, you're going to have so much more respect for dials in general, jaune and not jaune. But it's very complicated to make a dial.
Yes, I can imagine.
And there's a lot of misappreciation because you don't see. But this is like any craftsmanship. You need to understand this. I even want sometimes François Paul, but it's complicated to put it on Instagram, all this, to show the watch at the prototype stage. Yes. I said, Pierre, but that's not pretty. But when you start something, it is not pretty. It's a working tool. It's not even gold. It's scratched because we don't need to finish it. But I want people to understand that before you have this, you have a lot of sweat, a lot of like work behind it. And then I think that this is what I'm buying. I'm buying the fact that somebody, a genius like François Paul, has been able to do this and worked hard at this. Salvador Dali said, creation is 10% inspiration, 90% transpiration, like sweat.
Mm-hmm.
Because
hard work.
It is hard work.
Yes.
And believe me, François Paul works very hard, and sometimes he gets blocked. He says, I don't know how to do it. So when he does this, he has to let go of the project and hopefully come back and say, I have an idea, and he can progress. But like the centigraph, I remember the centigraph, a mathematician asked him, before the company got created, back in the mid-90s, do a speed differential. Many times with one watch. Many speed with one watch. So possible, no problem. And I said, yeah, problem. I don't know how to do it. It took him like more than 10 years, and he had like, I know how to do it. And then he started launching it.
Nice.
That's François Paul.
That's vision.
That's vision.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Pierre.
Obrigado. That's all I
hope to see you soon in Brazil.
You'll see me very often. I love this place. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I appreciate.
Espero que vocês tenham curtido esse podcast com uma pessoa que eu respeito demais, que é o Pierre, uma das marcas mais incríveis do mundo da relojoaria. Obrigado e até o próximo vídeo.